Hello, I'm Quinne Darkover, and welcome to my series about writing. I'm an author of a steampunk series, The Captain and Lady Fair, and I currently have the third novel in progress. I've also written a cookbook. This series is aimed at new writers, but I'm hoping that the more experienced writers might pick up a tip or two. Welcome to Write On. Styles, creating them and using them. Using the Styles tabs buttons is a much quicker way to format your document and make changes. If you use tabs, one of the problems is depending on the software, going from one software to another can create major issues. So you try to avoid tabs as much as possible. If you're submitting your work, they're expecting everything to be set up under the styles. So if they need to change something, they can do it pretty much with one click. So let's set up a style. Now, right now, you'll see that the normal button is highlighted because everything in this document is under the normal. So anything that I change in this normal button will change everything in this page. Well, Snow Bride is the title, so we want to make that title. If we just hit the title button, while that's, right now I'm just holding it over, or hovering, it will show you what it's going to do. Right now, the only thing it's doing is changing the font and the size. So we'll go ahead and say do that. So now it's Calibri Light at 28 points. We know that's wrong. Well, let's fix it. One way is to go into Modify. We can change the font, and I'm going to change it to well, let's change it to Times New Roman. It's easier to see on here. I'm going to change my font down to 12. We're also going to go into Format, Paragraph. First line, we're going to change that to none. Double check that the indentation spacings are 0. And for titles and submissions and things, it's double spacing. So we might as well change that while we're here. We'll say OK. And we'll say OK. And now we have Snow Bride left justified with a double spacing. We can just center it there, or we can go into the right click on the title and select the centering. That's basically changed everything that would be selected as title. In this case, it's only one. Doesn't matter. Now I have a byline here. There is no button for byline. So let's create one. Byline. Normally I don't have a style for byline, but we're going to use it as an example of how to set one up. There's two ways to get to that. One is to go to this little box here, open that, and then we can come down here to New Style. The other way to do it, or get to it, is to right-click on your highlighted byline, go to Styles, and create a style. It ends up the same way. So we're going to call this byline. And say OK. So now I have a byline. I can right-click and modify, and I could have done it from that other window by selecting Modify. We're going to change the style to Times New Roman, 12. We're going to center it, and we can see that it has an indent, so we'll go into Format, Paragraph, get rid of the first line indent. Again, everything is zeroed and double line spacing. Click OK, OK, and now my byline is set up. And if I click on it, my box for byline is set up. So now anytime you have a byline, you can just hit that button and it will set it up. Back into modify. Down here at the bottom, you have automatically update and new document based on this template. If you select the new document based on this template, your new documents will show your byline tab, and the automatic update will go through your document, and anytime it sees a line that's been given the style of byline, it will automatically update any changes you make. All right, now let's talk about chapter heading. I'm going to use this to show you a different way of making your adjustments to your styles buttons. So this is going to be heading 1 for my chapter heading. I'm going to first off change my font. My font size is correct. I'm going to tell it center. I'm going to select paragraph, get rid of the first line indent. Leave it at double. Zeros for the indentation and spacing. This will jump to the left because right now it has a little indent here that you can't see. And there it goes. Right now it's still as normal. We're going to go into heading 1 and tell it to update the heading to match the selection. What that does is it puts in, if you can see that little caret right there to the left, it's given it a heading style so that if later you want to do a table of contents, you can go into your references, table of contents, and tell it to create one. Just by selecting it, it will go through all of the document looking for headings, whether it be a heading 1 or a subchapter heading, heading 2. You can even create a heading 3 or more if you go into the create. Again, that's why styles are handy. It does all that linking for you. Now for the body of the text. If I click on this body of text, it's normal. I can go into modify. I can change the font. Size is correct. Go into format, paragraph, and notice the first line indent 1/2 inch. Shun wants 1/2 inch. Also, if you're doing Shun, it would be double. So we're going to say OK. OK. We've now changed the font to the way we need it. If I decide that I'm going to print this out and I want to save paper, I don't need the double lines. Now bear in mind, if you print it out for a submission, it still would have the double lines because they want the room to write notes. But I could go into modify, into format, paragraph, change this to single, OK, and my entire document has changed. I didn't have to highlight whole blocks of text and do any of that. So that's 2 ways to, well, actually 3 ways. One is to create an entirely new style. One is to modify an existing style. And one is to tell the style to accept what's already there. So far, styles have been fairly simplistic and don't seem to be doing a lot, but actually they do when you get down to how many clicks you're avoiding. One of the things you can set up also is on a first line, no indent. This is how it would look if you were doing a self-publish. Ordinarily, in a book of fiction, the first line after a chapter or a subchapter heading, that first line is not indented. So you can set up a tab to do the no indent. But for submissions, you do use the first line indent even after subchapter or chapter headings. There is one other thing that I will mention you can set up to do, and I'll just scroll down here to pick this section. If you have a letter, a note, a billboard, a sign, anything that you're wanting to really set apart, and you're doing a self-publish, I wouldn't say do this in a submission, but you could. You can highlight what you want as a note. We can select styles, create a style, and call this note or insert or letter or anything, just something that you'll recognize it. We'll go into the modify. We're going to leave this as Times New Roman 12. If you're doing a self-publish, you can make this italics. But if you're doing a submission, you just underline it. The underline means it's italics. So we're going to select underline. We're going to select format, paragraph, and now we get really wild and crazy. We leave our first line on. We will leave our spacing. If this was a submission, it would be double spacing still. But for ease of view, I'm going to leave it single. And then the left indent, I'm going to make that 0.4, and right indent 0.4. Now you can see down here in the example that it's moving the entire text over. If I make it a little bit more extreme, it'll be easier to see. And if I click OK and OK, I now have this inset. Because I did the 1/2 inch, it's even with the indent for my body of text. So in that case, I might go in for a little bit further. So it's definitely obvious. And now we have what we could call or would look like a letter or a note that somebody is reading. And we've now, if we have another note later on, I can highlight that and just click my note, and it's done with one click. So that's the advantages of styles. I will say once more, don't use tabs. Not all software likes them, and it can mess you up. I hope this helps. Have a good day.